Hello, and welcome to this Tridium Talk. Whether you're joining us live or watching the recording later, we're glad to have you with us. Hi, I'm Ruben Yanez de Leon, Product Manager for the Core Niagara Framework here at Tridium. I'm excited to walk you through one of the new features introduced in Niagara 4.15. Today's Tridium Talk focuses on Fox over WebSocket, a new capability that enhances how Niagara stations communicate more securely and efficiently. Before we dive in, a quick note. This session is being recorded and will be available afterward on YouTube and on our website, Tridium.com, under the Tridium Talks section. Feel free to use the Q&A feature to post your questions at any time. I'm joined today by Scott Hoy, a senior software engineer here at Tridium. Scott will be helping answer your questions and keeping me on track throughout the session. Here's what we'll cover in today's Tridium Talk. A quick look at where Niagara 4 stands today with version 4.15 as its final release, a brief overview of the Niagara Cloud Suite, a deep dive into our main topic, Fox over WebSocket, live Q&A to address your questions, and we'll wrap it up with helpful resources to get the most out of Niagara. Many of you have been working with the Niagara framework for years and have seen it evolve to meet the changing needs of our industry. That evolution is guided by what we call our 5 product dimensions: interoperability, visualization, user experience, connectivity and cloud, cyber defense, deployment ease, flexibility, certifications, and compliance. By focusing on these dimensions, we've delivered meaningful improvements across the platform, leading to innovations like the one we're discussing today. So where are we today with the Niagara framework? Let's take a quick look at the current state of the platform and how it's positioned for the future. Let's begin with the more seasoned of our 2 supported versions, Niagara 4.14. Niagara 4.14 introduced a range of improvements across all 5 product dimensions, with some of the most notable enhancements being listed here. If any of these catch your interest, perhaps a certificate signing service, I encourage you to check out past Tridium Talks or visit the Niagara Resource Center for more in-depth information. Niagara 4.14 was released back in July of last year, and we just rolled out the latest update, Niagara 4.14 U2, last month. As part of our commitment to supporting the most recent non-long-term support release, Niagara 4.14 will continue to get security updates and bug fixes, but only until Niagara 5 comes out, which is currently targeted for Q2 of 2016. Once Niagara 5 is released, 4.14 will officially reach end of life, meaning no more updates or patches. So, if you're looking for continued support beyond that point, that's where Niagara 4.15 comes in. Niagara 4.15 officially launched just last month, and it's a pretty big milestone for the platform. It now takes over from 4.10 as our new long-term support release, which means it'll get extended support, security updates, and maintenance for years to come. But just as important, 4.15 is the final release in the Niagara 4 series. So this version really wraps up the Niagara 4 journey and sets the stage for what's coming next with Niagara 5. With the release of Niagara 4.15, we've introduced a fresh set of features that continue to push the platform forward, still guided by those 5 product development dimensions I mentioned earlier. If you haven't had a chance to explore these capabilities yet, I highly recommend checking out some of our recent Tridium Talks. They dive deeper into specific 4.15 features, including UX Builder and remote engineering with Niagara Remote, Niagara Access, Relation Manager, and tagging in Niagara 4.15. You can find all these sessions on our website and YouTube channel. They're a great way to get a closer look at what's new and how to start using it. So, circling back to timelines for a moment, Niagara 415 is now our official long-term support release for Niagara 4, and it'll hold that status until it reaches end of life in Q4 of 2028. That means if you're planning to stay on Niagara 4 for a while, this is the version you'll want to be on. It's going to receive security updates and bug fixes for the next 3.5 years or so, giving you a solid, stable foundation to work from. So that's a quick snapshot of where Niagara stands today and what the road ahead looks like in terms of support and planning. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to talk about Niagara Cloud Suite. The Niagara Cloud Suite is made up of 3 cloud-based services, each designed to make your work easier and more secure. First up is Niagara Remote. This gives you simple, secure web-based access to any internet-connected Niagara station. No hardware to install, no VPNs to manage, just connect and go. Then there's Niagara Recover, which handles cloud-based disaster recovery automatically and securely. No more chasing down backup files on laptops or USB drives. The latest station backups are always safe, secure, and available when you need them. And rounding out the trio is Niagara Data Service. This one's all about securely archiving historical data along with its metadata, so authorized third-party apps can access and use that contextualized data outside of Niagara. If you're curious to learn more or you want to try it out, head over to our website. We're offering a 90-day free trial. All right. So now that we're all caught up on Niagara 4 and the Cloud Suite, let's get into the focus of today's session. Our Niagara 415 feature spotlight is on Fox over WebSocket. This capability is all about seamless, secure station connectivity, and it opens up some exciting possibilities for how Niagara stations communicate. So let's start with a bit of background. Since before the release of Niagara 4, stations have used port 1911 for incoming Fox connections and port 4911 for Fox S, the secure version. Fox is the protocol used when a system integrator connects with Workbench or when one Niagara station talks to another. Now, while this setup has worked technically, at times it's been a challenge when working with building owner IT departments. These teams are often unfamiliar with the Fox protocol, and since ports 1911 and 4911 aren't tied to any widely recognized standards, they can be hesitant to allow them through firewalls. That means getting approval to open those ports, and that can take time and explanation. And even when they are opened, they can sometimes get accidentally blocked during routine network maintenance. Now, not out of malice, just out of unfamiliarity. While it's inconvenient if you're trying to connect from a workbench, it's a much bigger issue if it disrupts station to station communication, which can impact how a building is operating. To help address what we just talked about, Niagara 415 introduces a new feature, Fox over WebSocket. This enhancement allows Fox traffic to be encapsulated inside a WebSocket, which means it can now travel over HTTPS through the station's web service. So, what exactly is a WebSocket? A WebSocket is a protocol that enables two-way real-time communication over a single persistent connection using standard web protocols. Now, just to clarify, when we say two-way, we're not talking about bidirectional connections between two Niagara stations. Fox over WebSocket behaves just like traditional Fox or Fox S. The key difference is that Fox traffic is now wrapped in HTTPS, which allows it to pass through the station's web server. This is a big win when working with IT departments because HTTPS traffic over port 443 is something they already know and trust. That familiarity makes it much easier to get firewall approval and reduces friction during deployment. Something to note, Fox over WebSocket only supports secure HTTPS connections. It does not support unsecure HTTP. Another great benefit of Fox over WebSocket is that it can act like a fallback if a standard Fox connection to the station is disrupted. So let's say we've got our Fox connections up and running, but then for whatever reason, that connectivity is lost, maybe due to a firewall change or a network issue. In that case, Niagara will automatically attempt to reconnect using Fox over WebSocket. This gives you an added layer of resilience, especially in environments where network conditions can change unexpectedly. All right, let's switch gears and take a look at Fox over WebSocket in action. I'll walk you through a quick demo to show you how it works, including how it handles fallback scenarios when traditional Fox connections are disrupted. So let's see how my luck with live demonstrations fares for us today. Here I am in my Niagara workbench where I have two host connections in my nav bar. And so I'll briefly describe my setup. I have these two stations running on this Niagara supervisor. Station A is utilizing the default Niagara Fox S port of 4911 and the HTTPS port of 443. Station B has its Fox S port modified to 4912 and the HTTPS port to 444 so that both stations can run simultaneously on this Niagara host with no port conflict. Fox over WebSocket only supports secure web connections, that is HTTPS, so we need to consider SSL certificates. For this demonstration, both stations are using self-signed certificates. They have not been authenticated by certificate authority. So certificates in this Niagara environment will have to be manually approved for a secure connection to be established. Fox over WebSocket is enabled by default on a Niagara station, whether the station has been brought in from a previous version of Niagara or is a new station made in Niagara 415. That means that if the HTTPS service is enabled, I should be able to access a station running in 414 using Fox over WebSocket by default. So let's connect to station A using Fox over WebSocket. I'm going to right-click over Station A's host on my nav bar and select Open Station. The familiar Connect dialog pops up. On the Sessions Type dropdown, I'm going to select Fox over WebSocket, Station TLS WebSocket connection. Notice that the port options in the Connect dialog has automatically been changed to the default HTTPS port of 443. If the station web server is using a different network port for HTTPS, it can be changed here to match. And now I'll click OK to connect. Because the station is using a self-signed certificate and it hasn't been approved in my workbench before, I'm given this identity verification. I'll select accept, and now I'm challenged with my station user credentials. My username's already in there, so I'll add my password. And now I'm logged into the station, just like I'm accustomed to. There are two indications that I'm logged into the station via Fox over WebSocket, rather than regular Fox or Fox S. First, I don't know if you could see, it's kind of small, but the Fox icon in my nav bar has a different badge on it. Second, I have a different ORD scheme of Fox WSS. So that demonstrates the connecting from a Niagara workbench to a station via Fox over WebSocket. Easy. Now let me show you how a Niagara station would connect to another Niagara station via Fox over WebSocket. I'm going to connect now to station B. And I am going to go to my Niagara network driver and double click it to get my default view of the station manager. I already have station A in there, and I will double click on station A to get the edit dialog. You'll notice that there are two new properties for this connection dialog, this edit dialog. The first is the Fox over WebSocket property, where we have a dropdown. This dropdown gives us three options. The default value is use WebSocket if Fox or FoxS fails. This can be useful in the event that access to Fox or FoxS ports is removed unexpectedly. And so the station will then attempt to connect to Fox over WebSocket. More on that in a moment. There's an option to use Fox over WebSocket only rather than try to use Fox or FoxS. And there's an option to disable Fox over WebSocket altogether. Right now, I'm going to select use WebSocket only. The next property that's been added is a Fox over WebSocket port. So again, if that port had been changed, I can enter that new port number here, but the default is 443, so I'm going to leave it there. Next, I'm going to enable my station, press OK, and my station failed. Now, I did this intentionally to demonstrate that if you're using a self-signed certificate on the web service, then the station needs to receive approval to connect to the remote service before it will do so. I'll do that now by navigating to services. I'll go to the platform services, double click on my cert manager service, allowed hosts, and here we can see the certificate that hasn't been approved yet. Now, I'd like you to notice something here. There are two certificates for the same IP address, but for different ports. One has already been approved to connect to, that is the standard FoxS port of 4911. However, the HTTPS port has not been approved. So just keep in mind that when you're approving self-signed certificates, you need to do so for each individual connection. I'm going to approve this HTTPS, this port 443. And now that I've done that, I'll return back to my Niagara network station manager. Seeing it, and we'll see that we have the connection. We can verify that the connection is currently using Fox over WebSocket by navigating into the client connection, looking at the property sheet where we have three new properties, one of them being Fox over WebSocket in use, and we see that is true. So it's telling us that we are currently connected using Fox over WebSocket. So let's talk about the fallback. Fox over WebSocket doesn't only provide a new way to establish Fox connections by default, it serves as a fall-through connection in case that access to Fox or FoxS is lost. To demonstrate, I'm going to go to the station manager, again in station B. I'm going to double click station A, and we're going to change the Fox over WebSocket property to use WebSocket if Fox or FoxS fails. I'll now go to station A. I'll go to config, services. I'll go to the Fox service. And here I'm going to disable FoxS. So now Fox or FoxS connections are no longer allowed on station A. But if I return to station B and look at the station manager, we can see that I'm still connected to station A. And again, going to the client connection, we can see that I'm doing so using Fox over WebSocket. We can also use the fall through on the workbench. I'm going to close my current connection to station A. That's a Fox over WebSocket connection to station A. So remove it from my nav tree. And now I'm going to attempt to connect using Fox. Of course, we disabled Fox access to the station before. But because of the fall through, the workbench automatically went to Fox over WebSocket to continue a connection, to establish a connection to station A. I wasn't asked to approve this connection, this SSL certificate, because we'd already done so earlier in the demo. So once I had done it, it's already been approved by my workbench. So just a few more details before finishing up. The Fox service, and we already kind of saw that, has some new properties. Here we can enable or disable Fox over WebSocket. Lastly, for our workbench, we can go to Tools, Options, Fox Options, and here we can configure whether to attempt Fox over WebSocket failover, like we just demonstrated, and what port it should automatically attempt to fail over to. In this case, I have 443. All right, that wraps up the demo. I'll take the last few minutes here to answer any questions that you might have about what we've covered today. If you haven't already, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A chat, and we'll get to as many as we can.
Yes, hi, this is Scott Hoy. There are a number of questions coming in. I'm trying to keep up with them written, but I'll go ahead and answer a few live, if that's okay. And Ruben, if you'd like to take any too, feel free. So a couple of questions have been coming in around latency and throughput. Does Fox over WebSocket, is there any impact there? Yes, there is, because we are wrapping Fox messages inside a WebSocket and has to route through the web server and then unpack those and route them through the Fox service. There is a little bit of overhead in that. For typical use cases, you probably won't notice it, but that is one reason why we are keeping FoxS. You can keep using FoxS if you want the maximum performance. It is still a secure TLS connection. So that's not going away. But Fox over WebSocket does give you some additional flexibility. And as you could see in the demo there, the performance, it's very responsive. So you may not notice that slight latency. But if you do have some very slow connections to your station's web server, then you may notice a slight change there. So yes, there is a little bit of change in the latency. Let's see. Is the FoxS only property for only outgoing connections or also for incoming? So the FoxS only, I think that's a property you're referring to on the station's Fox service. So that is for incoming connections that the station is receiving. So when the station is acting as a server for Fox, it would say that that property has been there for a long time. That's the case where you don't want to allow Fox connections, but if somebody attempts to make a Fox connection, if you had the unencrypted Fox connection open, it would reroute it and redirect it to FoxS. So that still functions the way it has always. So that it's not necessarily related to the Fox over WebSocket. However, the Fox over WebSocket fall through that will happen if configured to do so when a client like a workbench or a client station attempts to connect to that remote station. If it can't make the connection at all at that port, not because of like an authentication failure or something else like that, but if it can't make the connection at all, it will fall through and attempt to make the Fox over WebSocket connection to the web server on that station, which is typically on port 443. So it's not really related to that FoxS only property. So that's that one. Let's see. Can the platform be accessed by Fox over WebSocket? So had a couple questions about platform and Niagara D. So Niagara D is a separate process. The platform connection is actually a separate process. So we don't actually use Fox to connect to the platform. So when you're connected to the platform, that is already using HTTPS by default. So it goes, the platform has its own web server independent from the station's web server. So there are two separate processes. And it's got its own web server, which needs to be configured at a different port. You can't have a port conflict between the one running on the station and the one running the platform. So by default, the platform connection is to port 5011, which, but again, it's making HTTPS traffic connections there. It does actually use WebSockets, but that's unrelated to Fox over WebSocket because Fox is used for connecting station to station or workbench to station, but the platform connection is actually independent of that. So let's see. Was wondering about the intent of the creation of the failover feature. Is it for larger installations when you're busy changing things over and updating JSONs here and there? So it's kind of like a catch-all. Yes. So some of the reasons that failover can be nice. If you might have bookmarks, for example, in Workbench. You might have ORD bindings and PX graphics that are like hyperlinks to different stations in your system. Those ORDs might have a session that is Fox or FoxS. The new Fox over WebSocket ORD scheme, if you look closely, is Fox WSS. So those bookmarks or hyperlinks that you have when navigating in Workbench, they may fail if you cut off port 4911 or you're turning off FoxS or something, and so it wouldn't connect to those stations. But the nice thing about the fall through is you don't have to then go change all those bookmarks. It will detect that it can't make that connection because that port's not available, and it'll fall through and make the Fox or WebSocket connection. So there are some cases like you're talking about there when you're changing things over, or if the IT department says, we're going to go ahead and shut off port 4911, well, now you can continue to make those connections and those bookmarks will continue to work, and you can fix them, as you need to, but it doesn't just break everything. So let's see. Still some question about platform connections. Again, the platform connection is already using HTTPS and WebSocket. It's just connecting to a different port, not 443, because there's two separate web servers. Is 415 required on both ends of the connection to support Fox over WebSocket? Yes. The answer to that is yes. So if you've got a 414 station or older, you cannot connect to it with Fox over WebSocket. So you have to have everything needs to be upgraded that you want to make the connection to. Now, again, FoxS is not going away, so you can continue to connect in your Niagara network to those 414 stations the way they always have. Let's see. Is there any guidance on migrating a system to using WebSocket? Can it be changed in bulk with provisioning or with the program service? So Fox over WebSocket is enabled by default. So when you simply upgrade your station to 415, if your web server is enabled and the HTTPS port is enabled on your web server, then you can make Fox over WebSocket connections because, again, it's routing the Fox connection through your station's web server. So when you upgrade, chances are you won't have to make any configuration changes as long as you already had HTTPS enabled in your web server. Now, if you didn't have HTTPS enabled, you would need to go enable that in your web server. So you may need to, use a provisioning step or use a program service if you need. Well, you probably wouldn't need to use the program service because you probably logged already into that station. You can just go to the web server and enable it there. But you could use provisioning if you wanted to go enable HTTPS on a bunch of your JACEs in your Niagara network. But it should be enabled by default. So should be pretty simple to start using this. Let's see. A lot of questions coming in here. Just so everybody knows, if we don't answer your question live here, we are going to, answer these questions offline and give back a document. So we don't get to all your questions, just keep an eye out there on the Tridium events page, and we will post answers to all these questions. So this, if your internet connection to the remote supervisor, can you tunnel into the JACEs using your workbench? Tunneling disappeared in Niagara 4. This is not tunneling. This is just another way to connect to the station using the station's web server. So we can now route, just like when you make a browser connection to the station using HTTPS, you can now connect with Workbench to that station using HTTPS. So that same port 443 can now be used for both Fox communication to that station and web communication to that station. But it is not a means to do tunneling through one station to get directly to a downstream station. For the cases like that, you can use Niagara virtuals, you can use Niagara proxy points, Niagara, but tunneling, this is not a replacement for tunneling. Okay, I think we did some of those throughput questions. Oh, here's one. Once the failover occurs to the WebSocket port, will the system detect a reestablished FoxS connection and reconnect? Once you've established the Fox server WebSocket connection, it's going to keep that connection for the duration of that session. Now, once that connection closes, the next time it attempts to connect, it would, if configured to do so, like in the Niagara driver, it will first attempt FoxS and then fall through again if it can't make that FoxS. But if the FoxS connection is now back up, it will do that connection. But once the connection's established, for the duration of that session, it will continue, and it won't automatically, it's not continuing to try in the background, hey, can I make the FoxS connection now? Can I make the FoxS connection now? It's going to continue with that Fox server WebSocket session for the duration of that session, and it won't attempt the FoxS connection until the next time it has to reconnect, if that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I think we're hitting time here. If we didn't get to your question, we will be looking through all these and getting answers out. So yeah, it's glad to see all these questions. These are good. So thank you very much. Ruben,
So before we wrap up,
Yep.
just one last quick plug. If you're looking to learn more about Niagara, or if you're trying to track down answers to specific questions, be sure to check out the Niagara Resource Center. You can get right to it from Tridium.com. It's a great centralized hub for technical resources, product info, and more. Definitely worth bookmarking. And with that, we've reached the end of today's Tridium Talk on Fox over WebSocket. I hope you found the session informative and that it helps you get even more value out of the Niagara framework. Thanks so much for your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.